Good morning! I am Merlin M. Seridon, and my task to discuss the first objective of physical geography of Southeast Asia. So the first objective is trace the physical and natural attributes, landforms, bodies of water, weather and climate, as well as natural vegetation in the Southeast Asia. So, let's discuss first the landforms of Southeast Asia. So, ito yung nakikita nyo sa screen. Ang primary reference ko kasi nung ginawa ko ang landforms of Southeast Asia is yung binigay ni ma'am na reference na ang author ay si Gupta. So, nag-provide si Gupta sa kanyang book ng map na kung saan kinategorize niya yung mga landforms ng Southeast Asia. So, we have first the Northern Mountainous Region. Second, Western Myanmar Hills. Third, Central Myanmar Lowland. Fourth, the Tenasserim Coast. Then, the Central Range of Hills. The Central Plain of Thailand. Korat Upland. 8. Coastal Plain of Southeastern Thailand. The Elephant and Cardamom Hills. Then, the Coastal Plains of Kra Isthmus and Malay Peninsula. The Annamay Chain, Mekong Lowland, North Vietnam Plain, the island of Borneo, then the Arcuate Islands of Indonesia, as well as the Philippine Islands. So, first, the Northern Mountainous Region. No? As you can see in my video presentation or in the slide, may makita kayong curved line. So, fino-focus ko lang na yung Northern Mountainous Region. Ito po yung part nun. So, sa northern part ng Myanmar, ng Laos PDR, as well as the northern part of Vietnam. So, kung may makita po kayo, no, may nilagay po akong araw, the Kakborazi. So, 5,881. Located within Myanmar and China border. As well as we have the Fancy Peak, reaches 3,143 of Vietnam. This region map arbitrarily as the area higher than 1,000 meters stretches across the north from Myanmar through Laos, PDR to Vietnam. So, yun po ang Northern Mountainous region. So, next po ay ang Western Myanmar Hills. So, Western Myanmar Hills, the continuation of Patkai Hills and Naga Hills of India, no? So, yung dalawang arrow po sa taas na magkatabi, dyan po nag-start ang Western Myanmar Hills from Patkai Hills and Naga Hills of India. The eastward drainage flows to the Shidwin. In the south, where the range are entirely within Myanmar, it flows west to the Kaladan and east to the Irrawaddy. So, kapag tumingin ka po sa west part ng Western Myanmar Hills, so we have the Kaladan River. And the eastern part of Western Myanmar Hills is the Irrawaddy River. So, at the south part of Western Myanmar Hills, we have the Arakan Yoma. So, ayun po yung mga boundaries ng Western Myanmar Hills. And then, so let's move on with the number 3, the Central Myanmar Lowland. So, next po is yung Central Myanmar Lowland. We also have the Patkai Hills and Naga Hills of India kapag po tumingin tayo sa northern and western part of Central Myanmar Lowland. So, meron din po silang Mount Popa, 1,588 meter, located at Tila. Then, we also have the Peguyoma, no? So, sineparate po ng Peguyoma ang dalawang river ng Irrawaddy and Sitang River. So, ayan po sa screen, no? Ang Central Myanmar Lowland. The number 4, the Tenasserim Coast. So, may makita po kayo na the Bilin River flows to Gulf of Mortaban. And kung mapapansin niyo po yung River of Salween, nag-connect po sila ng River of Gayaing. And then, from that, meron po tayong Mulmin, a port of southeast of Myanmar. Then, after that, in the southern part of Tenasserim Coast is the Tavoy River. Then, we also have the Great Tenasserim River. So, yun po yung Tenasserim Coast. Yun po yung mga boundaries niya, or yun po yung mga meron po sa Tenasserim Coast. So, sa Central Range of Hills, under po nito is yung Hills of Northern Thailand and Lao PDR. We also have the Tenasserim Hills and Central Highland of Malay Peninsula. So, sa Hills of Northern Thailand and Lao PDR, meron pong main headwater streams, no, yung Chao Phraya. So, we also have the Ping River, Wang River, Yom River, and Danan River. So, another from Central Range of Hills. So, we have the Tenasserim Hills. So, ang Tenasserim Hills po, no, pag tumingin ka po sa west part of Tenasserim Hills, we also have the Tenasserim Coast. Meron din po tayong Salween River and the Gayaing River, wherein nag-connect po ang dalawang river. Then, meron din pong sa Arrow, may makita po kayo, no, the Kanchanaburi. So, ang Kanchanaburi po is a town, municipality in the west of Thailand. So, ayan po yung under din po yan ng Central Range of Hills. So, last for Central Range of Hills, we have the Central Highland of Malay Peninsula. It is also called Main Range, no? Meron pong important river ang Central Range of Hills, Central Highland of Malay Peninsula. As you can see, no, meron pong Kelantan River, the Perak River, and the Pahang River. So, yan po yung first to third order tributaries of the major streams. Number 6, Central Plain of Thailand. No, makita natin yung Korat Upland dito. Kapag ang boundary po na niya, no, ng Central Plain of Thailand sa kanyang northern western part is the Korat Upland. And sa eastern part naman po, ang boundary is yung Tenasserim Hills. And then the Gulf of Thailand sa south. So, yung sa Central Plain of Thailand, nandyan po ang Chao Phraya, no? Composes of Ping, Wang, Yom, and Nan River. Number 7, the Korat Upland. So, kung makikita po natin, no? Sa is part po ng Korat Upland, the Phetchabun Mountains. So, meron din po ang Korat Upland ng Pupan Hills. As well as meron din po silang river, the Moon River. And may range din po sila tinatawag na Dong Rek Range. So, sa southern part po ng Korat Upland, we have the Gulf of Thailand. So, yan po yung nagko-compose ng Korat Upland, yung mga boundaries po at kung anong po meron sa Korat Upland. Number 8, the Coastal Plain of Southern Thailand. No, kung makita po natin sa, nandyan po ang Cardamom Hills and Elephant Hills, no, sa eastern part of Coastal Plain of Southern Thailand. So, sa south naman po, Gulf of Thailand. And then, we also have islands, and the peaks of these islands are Summit Island, Sishang Island, Shang Island, and Cut Island. Let's move on with the Cardamom and Elephant Hills. The northern part of this hilly region is known as the Cardamom Hills, and the southern part, the Elephant Hills. So, the Cardamom and Elephant Hills located at Cambodia, no? So, the highest peak is slightly over 1,700 meter. Hills are flat top and steep-sided. Number 10, Coastal Plain of Kra Isthmus and Malay Peninsula. So, as you can see, no, Kra Isthmus lies at the extreme southern end of Thailand. So, nasa southern part po ang Kra Isthmus, no. Isthmus have formed a number of island. The best example of this is the Phuket Island and the Langkawi Island. They also have the Tamarat Range or the Nakhon Si Tamarat Range. Second, for the coastal plain of Kra Isthmus and Malay Peninsula. From north to south, we have the following rivers. So, the Muda River, Perak River, and the Muar River. They also have largest island of western coastal plain of Malay Peninsula, which is the Penang Island. And they also have gigantic hills, the Bubu and the Melaka. So last, for the coastal plain of Kra Isthmus and Malay Peninsula, the eastern coastal plain of Malay Peninsula. So, meron pong rivers ang eastern coastal plain of the Malay Peninsula. The Kelantan River at the north, the Pahang River, and the Johor River at the south. So, ang eastern coastal plain of the Malay Peninsula facing the South China Sea. So, number 11, the Annamay Chain. So, the Annamay Chain runs from the northern mountainous region to the southern parts of Vietnam through Lao PDR. So, the most extensive plateau is the Camahuan Plateau, and the two important plateaus is the Bolovan Plateau and Kontum Plateau. So, 12, Mekong Lowland. The lowlands of the Mekong from north to south, from northern mountainous region to the South China Sea. So, may kita din po dito yung Korat Upland, no? Nasa western part po ng Mekong Lowland. Then, the Mekong Lowland also have Dong Rek Range. And may kita din po natin, no? Yung Bolovan Plateau. Bolovan Plateau ng Annamay Chain. And the Tonle Sap, as well as the Tonle Sap River at the southern part. We also have Kadamon and Elephant Hills, no? Kadikit po ng Mekong Lowland. And of course, the South China Sea, no? Ang part ng Mekong Lowland. Ito, the South China Sea. So, number 13, we have the North Vietnam Plain. As you can see, in the northern part, we have the Song Hong River. So, nandyan din po ang Annamay Chain sa western part. And ang North Vietnam Plain is facing or fronting the South China Sea. And then, sa southern part po, we have the city in central Vietnam is the U. And we also have the Da Nang. So, number 14, Island of Borneo. At the northern part, we have the Kinabalu. It's almost at the north end of the series of ranges in the central highland of Borneo. So, large mountain are the ranges of Cracker Range, Witty Range, Tama Abu Range, Apu Duat Range, Iran Range, and Shuaner Range. So, meron din pong 3 major rivers ang island of Borneo. We have the Rahang River, the Makaham River, and Barito River at the south. So, number 15, the Arcuate Island of Indonesia, no? So, when we say Arcuate, yung curve shape. So, Arcuate Island of Indonesia composes of many volcanoes and islands. And the smaller island is the Bali Island. And then, the first group of small island is the Lombok Island. So, the Krakatoa, they also have Krakatoa, no, erupted the year of 1883. The Flores has the most volcanoes, although one of the world's biggest volcanic eruptions of historic times happened in 1815 on Sumbawa. So, ano ba yung vulkan na yon, no? Yung volcano na yon sa Sumbawa. So, yun ay ang Tambora. So, erupted in the year of 1815. Of course, our beloved country, Philippine Island. So, kung may kita natin, no, merong Philippine Fault Zone from North Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Ang Philippines din po ay composes of well-known and dangerous volcanoes such as Pinatubo, Taal, Mayon, and Hibok-Hibok in the southern part. And then, of course, we have the Chocolate Hills, no? Ating niyang pinagmamalaki. So, marami rin po, may Cagayan Valley din po tayo, no? Mga landforms. Ang Chocolate Hills malalocate po sa Bohol Island. So, let's move on with the bodies of water. So, sa Southeast Asia po, no, may 5 po na bodies of waters na napaka mahalaga sa Southeast Asia. So, we have the Irrawaddy, Salween, Chao Phraya, Mekong, and the Songhong River. So, Songhong River also called as Red River. You can see, no, ayan po yung location ng Irrawaddy River, Songong River, Salween River, Mekong River, the Chao Phraya River. So, kung mapapansin po, no, halos lahat may kita po sa Myanmar, sa Laos, PDR, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. So, first, the Irrawaddy, no, cited by Gupta. The two headwaters of Irrawaddy River of Myanmar, the eastern Namahika and the western Malika, rise in the northern mountainous region. So, the Namahika is the longer branch and the shorter is the Malika. So, the river received numerous short tributaries draining the Arakan Yuma to the west and the Pegu Yuma to the east. Next is the Chao Phraya. The Chao Phraya originates as four rivers that drain the hills of northern Thailand. The four headwaters of Chao Phraya is the Ping, Wang, Yom, and Nan River. Wang is the shortest stream. A number of dams flow of these rivers, including Bumipol Dam on the Ping and the Sirikit Dam on the Nan. The two western streams, the Ping and the Wang, join below the Mumipol Dam. The eastern two, the Yom and Nan, about 30 km north of Nakhon Sawan. So, the last bodies of water provided by Gupta is the Mekong River. The Mekong, the 12th longest river in the world, it is the biggest river in Southeast Asia. The Mekong River also does not move freely, but instead follows a set of structure-guided, near straight reaches bounded by sharp bends. So, the large hairpin blend upstream of Luang Prabang. The Mekong then follows a winding course along the foothills of the northern mountainous region to reach the Annamite chain. There are three large tributaries of the Mekong, the Srepak, the San, and the Kong. So, let's move on with the weather and climate of Southeast Asia. So, ginamit ko po yung reference na pinabride po ni Ma'am, ni Dr. D. Guzman po, yung Southeast Asia map of Köppen climate classification. Now, as you can see, nakategorize po siya sa following, no? Equatorial climate, represented by AF. Monsoon climate, represented by AM. Tropical savanna climate, AW. Warm oceanic climate. So, yung CFAs, hindi po siya ganun evident, no, sa Southeast Asia. Then, next is temperature oceanic climate, CFB. The humid subtropical climate, CWA. And the subtropical oceanic highland climate, represented by CWB. So, first po is yung tropical rainforest climate, represented by AF. The tropical wet climate, this climate has no natural seasons. Some of the places with this climate are indeed uniformly and monotonously wet throughout the year. So, wet po siya, no, or rainy season po siya throughout the year. But in many cases, the period of higher sun, the longer days in distinctly wettest. So, examples po is Palembang, Indonesia. Or the time of lower sun and shorter days may have more rain, no? Example po is Malaysia. Most of regions, including the island and coastal areas, has a tropical rainforest climate. This climate mostly wet conditions almost year-round. So, tagulan po, no, almost year-round. And then the second po is yung monsoon climate or the AM. This climate has distinct wet, dry periods. During the rainy season, the climate of this location is similar to the tropical wet climate. Warm, humid, and has frequent thunderstorm. During the dry season, more or less, semi-desert conditions prevail. This climate has a dry month, rotation of week, dry season, and wet season. So, dito po sa monsoon climate, no, clearly po. So, meron siyang wet season and dry season. So, example po nito is yung Vietnam, Jakarta, Indonesia, no. Number 3 po, tropical savanna climate or represented by AW. Clearly divided into dry season and wet season. So, dito naman po is clearly divided po. Talaga po meron po silang dry season and wet season. Possibly of flood in wet season. So, pag wet season po nila, talaga pong evident po yung flooding. And possibly of drought or tagtuyo in the dry season. So, example po dito is yung Bangkok, Thailand, Vietnam, Phnom Penh, Cambodia, Surabaya, Indonesia. So, unlike steady wet climate of the tropical rainforest alternate wet and dry season. So, alternate po yung wet and dry season. Mayroon po silang specific na season, no? Which is the dry and rainy season. So, number 4 po, temperature oceanic climate represented by CFW. Generally features warm but not hot summers and cool but not cold winters. Typically lack a dry season. Precipitation is more evenly dispersed throughout the year. Summers are mild due to cold ocean currents, usually very cloudy and frequently wet. So, example po is yung Tazung Dam, Myanmar. Next po, yung humid subtropical climate, represented by CWA. CWA is monsonal influence, having the classic dry winter, wet summer pattern associated with tropical monsoon climate. A humid subtropical climate is a zone of climate characterized by hot and humid summers and cold to mild winters. And the last one is the subtropical oceanic highland climate. Dry winter subtropical climate, CWB, is a type of climate mainly found in highland. Winters are noticeable and dry, and summers can be very rainy. So, dito man po is baliktad. Kapag winters po nila, ma-evident po yung drought or dry. Kapag naman po summer, talagang wet summer po sila, no? Summer can be very rainy. Let's move on with the natural vegetation of Southeast Asia. As you can see po, ang ginamit ko rin po ditong resources is yung binigay po ni Dr. D. Guzman po, no? Na natural vegetation of Southeast Asia. Kung makita po sa legend, nakategorize po evergreen mountain forest, evergreen lowland forest, mangrove forest, swamp forest, thicket, shrubs, grassland, and cultivation, cropland, as well as burnt vegetation, dry or sparse vegetation. So, first sa evergreen mountain forest, no? So, highland areas are relatively more extensive in Southeast Asia. So, hindi po nakakapagtaka, no? Kasi po sa region po ng Southeast Asia, most of the regions is wet po, no? So, ang nangyayari po, mayaman po talaga yung ecosystem ng Southeast Asia, ng region po ng Southeast Asia. So, wildflowers blanket the meadows throughout the summer growing season. In northern Myanmar, the highest mountain in the region, the Kakaburazi, reaches 5,881 meter. So, sa evergreen mountain forest po, no, sa mga hilly slope po, na makikita po yung evergreen forest po. Then, the second one is evergreen lowland forest. So, kung dun po sa evergreen mountain forest, sa mga hilly slopes po, no, dito po sa evergreen lowland forest, so, ang tropical rainforest ng lowland is more precise, have the highest biomass, structure, complexity, and both floristic and phenostic diversity of any vegetation type in the region. Tropical rainforests are limited to areas without seasonal water or temperature stress, although less regular dry periods may occur. In the Southeast Asia, there are major blocks of rainforests. A western block, principally Sumatra, the Malay Peninsula, and Borneo. And the eastern part is New Guinea. So, dito po sa evergreen lowland forest, since po yung location ng Southeast Asia po is rainy season po most of the regions po, no? So, nagsasuffer po ng typhoons. That's why po napakayaman po ng ecosystem, katulad po ng sinabi ko kanina, no? This time naman po may kita pong evergreen lowland forest sa mababang area po, not unlike sa evergreen mountain forest, may kita po siya sa mga hilly slopes po, no? And so, under po ng evergreen lowland forest, we have the tropical deciduous forest. So, dito po, in the tropics, is a response to seasonal water stress, and one would expect a gradual change from fully evergreen to fully deciduous forest. So, ang nangyayari po dito, sa evergreen lowland forest po, no, mayabong po yung mga kapunuan po natin doon. Pero po dito po sa deciduous forest, nagkakaroon po ng dahil po sa tagtuyot, no, nalalagas po yung mga nagiging yellowish po yung mga leaves po ng forest natin, at the same time naglalagas po. So dito po yun nga po, no, sinabi na seasonal water stress, no, kaya po nagkakaroon tayo ng deciduous forest. So, number 3 po, mangrove forest. The mangrove forest of Southeast Asia and Northern Australia are more species rich. So, alam naman po natin, no, ang Southeast Asia po is mayaman po sa mangrove forest. About 1/3 of the world's mangrove forests are in Southeast Asia, with the largest areas in Sumatra, Kalimantan, and Papua. Huge areas have been lost. So, because of in centuries po, no, in few decades, na nade-deteriorate po or nade-degrade yung mga mangrove forest because of syempre humans, no, na convert po kasi mga mangrove areas into fish ponds, salt ponds, and urban development and logging for charcoal. Ito is yung swamp forest for number 4, no. Areas subject to tidal flooding by water support a flora distinct from both the mangrove forest and the freshwater swamp forest. So, dito po, no, kapag po, syempre po, tag-ulan po yung most of the regions po ng Southeast Asia. Ang nangyayari po, yung mga na-stuck na mga tubig po from flood, nagkakaroon po ng yung tinatawag na swamp forest. So, sa swamp forest po, maraming mga species po na nabubuhay. Kaya lang po yung mga swamp forest na yun, nako-convert na rin po, no, into cultivation of rice and now support dense human populations. So, yung mga nagiging endangered po yung mga animals or mga species na nabubuhay sa swamp forest kasi nga po nako-convert po into human sa dense po ng human population. So, however, vast areas of swamp grassland still survive in Papua. And number 5 po yung thickets, shrubs, grassland, and cultivation. Natural evergreen shrublands are found at the altitudinal limit of tree growth, and it is possible that deciduous shrublands and thickets are the natural vegetation in some of the dry lowland areas. So, sa shrub, thickets po, and grasslands, no, usually po nalolocate to sa mga areas na abandoned or deforested. So, dun po tumutubo tong mga thickets po na to and shrubs. Sa mga grasslands naman po, also develop directly on soils, exhausted by prolonged cultivation or short fallows, and are maintained by regular burning. So, tumutubo po yung mga grassland, no, by regular burning. Usually din po sa mga abandoned and deforested areas. This one po is yung cropland. So, yung rice was domesticated, the first cultivated in natural wetlands, probably in the Yangtze Valley in China. But the area used for wet rice cultivation has been greatly extended by the development of techniques for water retention and irrigation. Today, rice is by far the most important crop in the region. So, alam naman din po natin yan, no? Kasi primary, ang rice po ang pangunahing pagkain po ng mga Filipino. Na, hindi lang po mga Filipino, other countries po, no, sa Southeast Asian region po. So, ang nangyayari din po kasi sa Philippines, nagsasuffer po tayo ng shortage of rice because of our location po, no, kasi nga po yung typhoon, mga floods po, no, that's why yung mga plants po natin or yung mga crops po, yung mga pananim po ng ating mga magsasaka is nasisira po dahil nga po sa location ng ating country. So, kaya nga po nangyayari na sa mga news po, may mga balita po na nag-aangkat po ang Philippines sa iba't ibang bansa ng rice. Kasi nga po, talagang isa po yung hindrance para po ma-support yung ating, ma-sustain po yung ating needs sa rice, na nasisira po yung cycle because of storms po, no? Kasi nga po sa location po natin, very prone po tayo sa mga typhoons. At yun lamang po, maraming salamat po.
So, we are done discussing about the physical and natural attributes of Southeast Asian region, the landforms, bodies of water, the natural vegetation, as well as the weather and the climate. Now, I will be discussing about how these particular things or this physical environment influences the human landscape. So, So geography doesn't just tell us whether a certain area is available for a person to live. It also tells us the people's lifestyle. Okay, how are they adapting to the availability of the food? How they will be adapting to the climate patterns? Okay, so we all know that Southeast Asian region is a very fascinating and unique land. The energy resources, the mountains, the volcanoes, the rivers, okay, it all affects how a human person lives in a particular area. Okay, so I will be posting a videos of different persons in the Southeast Asian region as well as its environment. How are we adapting? How are we influenced by this particular environment?
Southeast Asia truly is one of the most fascinating regions of the world. It's a place of tremendous contrasts, where huge modern cities, with their bustling streets and crowded shops, often lie just a short distance away from tiny villages where people follow a slower, more traditional way of life. Southeast Asia is located to the south of China, to the east of India, and to the north of Australia. Most of the region has a tropical or subtropical climate because the equator passes right through it. That's why it's such a perfect place for raising rice, for collecting milky latex sap from rubber trees, and for watching specially trained elephants at work in the jungle. Southeast Asia is a part of our planet noted for its many islands, which are surrounded by warm saltwater seas and bays, where coral reefs and beautiful fish abound. It is also a place with many diverse cultures, where many different languages are spoken, and where many different religions are practiced. So it's not surprising that Hindu temples, Muslim mosques, Taoist temples, Christian churches, and Buddhist temples are all fairly commonplace here. Unfortunately, the Southeast Asia region faces some serious problems too. Poverty is quite severe in several of its nations, and people really have to struggle to survive. Also, huge tracts of forest are being torn up and burned to create new farms and tree plantations to supply the region's growing population. The smoke produced from burning the forests and farm fields causes severe air pollution at certain times of the year that often affects far distant parts of the world. And of course, the ongoing destruction of large areas of natural habitat is endangering many of the region's native species, such as orangutans and proboscis monkeys. Overfishing and water pollution have harmed many of the area's aquatic ecosystems too. But in spite of its numerous problems, these days, Southeast Asia is a place that's changing quite rapidly, in ways that make it a very important part of the world to understand.
Okay, so to give an example of how the physical environment will affect the people's lifestyle or the human landscape is an example from the people living in the Mekong River. Okay, so it will be presented next.
The Mekong River is undoubtedly one of the most important geographical features of the Southeast Asian region. It is the 11th largest river in the world, and the lives of millions of people depend on it. This mighty river begins in the high plateaus of Tibet in China and flows nearly 3,000 miles into the South China Sea, which is part of the Pacific Ocean. After leaving China, the Mekong passes through 5 Southeast Asian countries: Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Many of these countries lack good highway and railroad systems, so naturally, the river is used extensively for transporting both goods and people. That's why it is quite common to see riverboats and barges piled high with all sorts of goods, as well as numerous water taxis that carry passengers to the towns and villages along the river. A lot of the families that live on the Mekong River own small boats, which are their main form of transportation. Some are powered by engines, but many depend on muscle power and are simply rowed to get from place to place. The Mekong is even home to a number of floating markets, like this one in Vietnam, where people come by boat to buy or sell a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. Some people live in the larger boats and rarely set foot on land. Others live in floating villages. And many live in houses along the riverbanks that are built on stilts that rise above the waterline. Fish are a mainstay of the diet in Southeast Asia, and that's why on the Mekong River you'll see people fishing almost everywhere you look. The Mekong River is home to hundreds of species of fish, some of which can grow to be quite large. Fish farming is a popular business among some of the river dwellers. They build pens under their floating houses to hold the fish. They make food for them from scrap fish parts and flour. The fish are fed through a trap door in the floor and are harvested through the same door once they have grown to be a large enough size. Today, the Mekong River is under a lot of strain. The untreated sewage and farm runoff that pour into the river at many points spread waterborne diseases. The nutrients they contain also encourage the growth of algae, which in turn leads to a loss of oxygen in the water, and low oxygen levels kill fish. Another problem facing the Mekong River is that large dams in China are impeding its flow and interfering with migration routes of several fish species, making it difficult for them to spawn. Lower water levels have also disrupted river transportation and limited the amount of irrigation water available to raise crops.
So the next topic will be the comparison of the climate, physical landscape, and the natural environment in Southeast Asia. So a comparison of the climate in the Southeast Asia. As we can see in the map, Southeast Asia is dominated by the tropical rainforest and tropical savanna climate. Some portion at the north of Laos and Vietnam and also Myanmar has a humid subtropical climates. Also, a little portion of Borneo Island and the Papua New Guinea Island has a highlands climate. This climate varies with elevation. As discussed earlier, tropical rainforest climate, which is, as you can see, most of the islands and coastal areas are with tropical rainforest climate. This climate is a wet climate. It has no natural seasons. Okay, some of the places with this climate are indeed uniformly and monotonously wet throughout the year. But many cases, the period of higher sun and longer days is distinctly wettest. For example, in Indonesia, or the time of lower sun and shorter days may have more rain in Malaysia. Most of regions, including the islands and coastal areas, has a tropical rainforest climate. As I have said, this climate mostly wet conditions almost all year round. Okay, well, the tropical savanna climate naman can be found in the East Timor. Also has a tropical savanna climate. Also some part of Laos at the southwest part. Also part of Vietnam along coastal area. Greater part of Thailand also has a tropical savanna, and also Myanmar has a tropical savanna climate. Now, this tropical savanna climate is clearly divided into dry and wet season. The possibility of flood in the wet season and the possibility of drought in the dry season. This season supports tropical grassland with scattered trees and some forest. In the Indochina Peninsula, the dry season may last from 4 to 8 months each year. On the mainland, from around May through September, summer monsoon wind bring rain. The winter dry season extends from October to April. The first few months of this period are generally cooler, but the last few months become hot. In southern Indonesia, south of the equator, the wet and dry cycles are reversed. From May to September, South Pacific trade winds bring the hot dry season. From October to April, the monsoon bring rain. So that is the tropical savanna climate. Next is the humid subtropical climate. Parts of Southeast Asia mainland include most of Laos, a small part of the Thailand and northern Myanmar and Vietnam have a humid subtropical climate. The northern reaches of Laos, Thailand, and Vietnam provide relief from the hot humid temperatures. From November to April, the cool dry temperatures there average 61 degrees Fahrenheit or 16 degrees Celsius. In Myanmar, the elevated Shan Plateau has lower temperatures than the rest of the country. The climate there resembles cooler climates elsewhere, and the plateau is sometimes called tropical Scotland. So, highlands climate in the part of Indonesia, Papua Island, and the Borneo Island. In mountainous areas of Myanmar, New Guinea, and Borneo Islands, climates predominate the much cooler temperature of these areas, set them apart from the surrounding climate regions. Deciduous forests with moss covered tree trunks are found in lower slopes. Deciduous trees are broadleaf and lose their leaves in autumn. Evergreen forests appear at higher elevations.
In mainland Southeast Asia, rugged mountains fan out across the countries of Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. Between these mountains are low plateaus and river floodplains. Island Southeast Asia consists of more than 20,000 islands, some of them among the world's largest. New Guinea is the Earth's second largest island, and Borneo is its third largest island. Many of the area's larger islands have high mountains. A few peaks are high enough to have snow and glaciers. Island Southeast Asia is a part of the Ring of Fire as well. As a result, earthquakes and volcanic eruptions often rock the area. When such events occur underwater, they can cause tsunamis. Water is a central part of Southeast Asia. As you can see on the map, it's filled with seas and straits and gulfs. In addition, several major rivers drain the mainland's peninsulas. Of these rivers, the mighty Mekong River is the most important. The mainland's fertile river valleys and deltas support farming and are home to many people. Southeast Asia lies in the tropics, the area on and around the equator. Temperatures are warm to hot year-round, but become cooler in the north and especially in the mountains. Much of the mainland has a tropical savanna climate. Seasonal monsoon winds from the ocean bring heavy rain in the summer and drier weather in the winter. Severe flooding is a common event during the wet season. This climate supports savannas, areas of tall grass and scattered trees and shrubs. The islands of the Malay Peninsula mainly have a humid, tropical climate. The climate is hot, muggy, and rainy all year. Showers or storms occur almost daily. In addition, huge storms called typhoons can bring heavy rains and powerful winds. The humid tropical climate's heat and heavy rainfalls support tropical rainforests. These lush forests are home to a huge number of different plants and animals. Almost 40,000 different kinds of flowering plants can be grown in Indonesia alone. These plants include Rafflesia, the world's largest flower. It measures an astounding 3 feet across, but it produces a horrible rotting stink. Rainforest animals include elephants, monkeys, tigers, and many types of birds. Some species are found nowhere else. They include orangutans and the Komodo dragon. Many of these plants and animals are endangered because of the loss of habitat and the logging which occurs in the region. Southeast Asia has a number of valuable resources. The region's hot, wet climate and rich soil make farming a highly lucrative process. Rice is a major cash crop, and other crops include coconuts, coffee, sugarcane, palm oil, and spices. Some countries, such as Indonesia and Malaysia, also have rubber plantations. The region's seas provide fisheries, and its tropical rainforests provide hardwood and medicine. The region has many minerals and fossil fuels as well, including tin, iron ore, natural gas, and oil.